United States uses the dollar as a weapon and the reserve status of the dollar, other countries don't like this. And so to the extent that they can move away from the dollar,
we're going to replace, the dollar.
When the dollar collapses, they're not going to go to the euro, they're not going to go to the yen, they're not going to go to the renminbi, they're going to go back to gold.
If you love your country, you should have gold in reserves. If you have a crisis of being intact, your paper money goes down in tremendous value.
No Cardano or anything like that?
Look, I'm just not, I don't view myself as a trader. And I think, some people who, they're traders and they're doing lots of these different things. I'm very busy with all things Ripple. And so I think to do that well, you kind of have to pay more attention to what's going on. I guess I am one thing I should have, in full disclosure, before I joined Ripple, I was an angel investor in a company called Protocol Labs, which is behind Filecoin. So I think I have exposure to Filecoin also.
Got it. All right, let's switch gears and talk about the SEC lawsuit and everything that's going on. I have quite a few questions, but things are moving so fast, so rapidly. And could you give us a state of the union here of where are we at? What discussions are you having with the SEC right now, the case and all of that, if you can?
Sure. And, look, as you and I talked a bit, as we organized this, there's some questions I may, explicitly dodge and just say, and there's others I may just, kind of answer around it. Suffice it to say, I think it's very clear, and what I said at the very beginning of this, when the SEC announced their intent to bring the lawsuit, I think the SEC is wrong on the facts. I think they're wrong on the law. I think how we have seen this play out is demonstrating some of that. This is not I actually agree it has moved, at a reasonably good clip, but by the same token, the engine of the justice system isn't necessarily, super fast. And so, we've got a long way to go. I remain hopeful that, as time progresses, there'll be additional opportunities to engage the SEC in conversations about what could be a constructive outcome here that's, provides the clarity that, frankly, Ripple and I have sought for a long time and even, pounded the table about, but also give the entrepreneurs and investors and here in the United States the ability to participate in these markets and continue to grow them here at home. There have been a couple of pretty consequential rulings from the court in the last 3 weeks. I think to me, the most important one amongst those was the judge's decision to allow discovery around the SEC's decision to determine that, to publicly state anyway, that Ether is not a security and that Bitcoin is not a security. And I think it's even interesting, why they fought that. If we want to provide clarity and transparency to the market, let's provide that. Let's actually do that. And so, I was pleased that, the judge ruled in our favor on that one.
Do you feel there's some sort of conflict of interest here on Jay Clayton's part, given where him and Mr. William Hinman, the places they find themselves now at in connections to Ethereum and so on and so forth?
Yeah. Look, suffice it to say, it's super frustrating. Obviously this was a decision that was made on literally the day before Jay Clayton left his position. I think it's very clear Jay Clayton was not a friend to the crypto industry, and I think this was I think his legacy will show that. And doing this the day before he left, I don't know. I'm not really that much of a conspiracy theorist. Certainly, the optics on some of the decisions that Jay Clayton has made since then, and certainly Bill Hinman has made since then, it don't look great. The fact that Simpson Thacher is a member of the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance, and he's getting paid by Simpson Thacher while he's there, those things don't look great. But I'd like to believe that now that we are in front of a neutral fact finder or in front of a court, that we'll get to the right outcome. And I think that the facts will bear that out. And I think I'm pleased about kind of how it's going so far.
Got it. And what are your thoughts on Gary Gensler? Obviously, well versed in crypto. He's taught at MIT. He's spoken about RippleNet, XRP, Bitcoin, and so on and so forth. What are your thoughts about him coming in, and have you already started talks with him?
Look, I think relative to, as we were just talking about with Jay Clayton as chairman, Gary Gensler comes in as truly, very knowledgeable. I mean, literally, he taught the class. That's somewhat tongue in cheek, but somewhat seriously. And so, the fact that he was teaching at MIT about cryptocurrencies, and as you have seen, you gave lectures about things like XRP, I think is incredibly valuable to the whole industry. I think, I don't think Jay Clayton deeply understood some of these technologies. One of when Bill Hinman announced that Ethereum was not going to be viewed as a security, one of the things he hung that on was this idea around decentralization. Then I think they very quickly realized, well, the XRP Ledger is, equally, if not more so, decentralized. And so that became, well, let's not talk about that anymore. Let's talk about other things. And I think, frankly, back to the discovery, I think, some of those things I expect we will see as we get more and more discovery from the SEC.
Got it. And what do you think about John Deaton's, the attorney John Deaton, lawsuit on behalf of XRP holders?
That came as a surprise to me and I think everyone at Team Ripple. And it's fascinating to watch it because, when the SEC decided to bring this lawsuit, despite having been warned by a previous SEC commissioner, there's a massive destruction of value, right? About $15 billion of value went out of the XRP market. And obviously, many exchanges here in the United States halted trading of XRP.
So I want to ask you about, in your mind, what's your ideal scenario outcome here? Given that we have this lawsuit, we have a neutral party of the judge in place, Gary Gensler coming in, what would be your ideal outcome?
Well, my ideal outcome or my pragmatic outcome? Look, and I've seen actually people on Twitter talk about this. I want closure. I want clarity. For people who have followed this before the lawsuit, I've been saying for at least a couple of years that we have lacked clarity in the United States. In contrast, you've got major economies around the world, like the UK, like Japan, like Switzerland, like Singapore. These are not really small economies. These are big economies with robust government infrastructure that have provided the clarity, that have allowed entrepreneurs, that have allowed those that would choose to speculate in digital assets to do so with that clarity and certainty. And here in the United States, we haven't had that. And so, someone had said, well, maybe I'm quoting a Twitter tweet roughly, someone had said, well, if they walk away from the case, we won't have the certainty we've been looking for. Maybe we want to keep the case, we want to get to the closure. And I kind of agree with that. If we've been asking for that for 2 or 3 years, we're now, for better or for worse, we're on a path to get it. And it's unfortunate it has to come from the courts. For better or for worse, the SEC has not gone through the rulemaking processes that would provide the certainty even for Bitcoin or Ether. And one of the reasons why I said when the SEC first filed this lawsuit that this was an attack on crypto is because if you're going to say that about XRP, where is that dark line where this is and that isn't? And I think as more and more people are finding, that it's a slippery slope. Even last week, I think Barry Silbert came out and said it would be, I'm paraphrasing here, but roughly speaking, he said that it would be dangerous for U.S. exchanges to unhalt or relist XRP. And at the same time, he was removing XRP from one of his funds, but adding Chainlink, I think. Well, the clarity doesn't exist for Chainlink. The clarity that, it's one of these like, well, wait a minute, did you really think through all of that? And it's one of the reasons why we have tried to, really educate the crypto market at large that this isn't good for the whole crypto industry.
Right.
And, really it's, I think, how do we all work together and help create legislation, help create that clarity and that certainty. So my ideal outcome, clarity and certainty are first amongst them. How do we get there? Well, as quickly as possible, I want to get there with the SEC so that Ripple can operate effectively, so that lots of other companies that are operating in the XRP ecosystem can operate with that clarity and certainty. But at this point, given they did decide to file the lawsuit, I think we need to either reach a clear settlement that provides that clarity and certainty, or let the judge make that decision.
Sure. And do you see another avenue? Let's say the SEC can't get their act together for whatever reason, but Congress has to step in here with a token taxonomy act or change the law, or President Biden, whatever, just something happens on that front. Do you see that as a possibility as well?
Oh, for sure. For zero doubt about that. I mean, when there aren't clear laws, it's Congress's job to provide clearer laws. And, to the extent I have anything nice to say about the SEC today, there is a rulemaking process through which they could go about. They chose not to do that and use enforcement as a way to try to create clarity, which I think is extremely inefficient and really bad for, in this case, Ripple, and really the entire XRP community. But there was something called the Digital Commodity Exchange Act introduced in the last session of Congress, and in the, I think, Agricultural Committee. And I hope that either that or something very similar, and I'm not sure anything's been introduced yet, but I expect there will be new efforts to solve this through legislation. And I think that could be even a more efficient path than what we're dealing with through the court system, because the court system will make a determination, assuming it gets all the way there, about XRP, and did Ripple engage, or did I personally or Chris Larson personally engage in selling unregistered securities. But that won't solve the problem for everyone else. It'll provide a precedent. But really, I think, if we could get clarity through legislation, that could be very powerful for the whole industry. And but one more thing, and I know I'm rambling a bit, just bear with me one sec. Having been a student of the internet back in the late 90s, one of the reasons why the United States was such a early investor and leader in the internet technologies and companies around it is because there was that clarity, there was certainty. Sure. And when you have those things, investors and entrepreneurs come into those markets. And instead, what we have here in the United States, we don't have those things. And so you see a lot of that happening outside of the United States, which I think is unfortunate, for here in the United States. You mentioned the UK having a very clear tax, I think they called it the Token Taxonomy Act or something like that, that really differentiate different assets by use case, which I think is, did provide leadership in the UK. And I think Singapore has provided a lot of leadership, in Japan as another example.
So on that note, with the lawsuit and all, you remember you tweeting something about getting some more gray hairs and things like that, obviously a stressful situation. Has Ripple lost any customers? Has this put a roadblock in gaining new customers? Can you tell us about that?
Well, look, I actually, there's a little bit, mostly good news here. I think we publicly have shared that we've signed over 20 new customers since the SEC brought their lawsuit. We processed about 3 million transactions last year on RippleNet, which was, up 5x year on year. We expect continued very strong growth this year. And so in a lot of ways, I feel really good about that. About well over 90% of our customers going into this lawsuit were non-US customers. And, of the 20 plus that we've signed, none of them have been US customers, not surprisingly. So look, Ripple has always been a very global company. As we talked about earlier, XRP trading has always been very, very global with, XRP liquidity on about 200 exchanges around the world. We have, though, it has caused some headwinds, here in the United States. Very well known, our partnership with MoneyGram, we both kind of mutually agreed to step away from for the time being. But we also, as I already commented, we've been able to grow, in some ways, accelerate our growth. We've made a couple big deals. One, Trenglo, we agreed to acquire about 40% of a pretty large payment provider in Southeast Asia. They do about 20 million transactions a year and about $4 billion of value. So, we hired an amazing leader in Southeast Asia, Brooks Enswile, who joined us from Uber, which has been great to kind of jumpstart some of that leadership as well.
Yeah, no, so you mentioned Trenglo. I also saw Novati is, if I'm saying that right, is a new customer of yours. They will be leveraging ODL.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, look, ODL, on-demand liquidity, is the product we offer that allows customers to tap into XRP as a way to shuttle liquidity. Our customers have loved it. We have a lot of demand for it. Obviously, the SEC's actions here in the United States have kind of stymied that. But, Asimo, Novati, these are all customers